had to actually rethink what selfishness was, because I think a lot of it is, especially as a woman, we're told like, oh, don't be selfish, you got to look out for everybody. Well, I think the most selfless act that you can do is actually looking out for yourself and putting yourself first. That is selfless.
Welcome. I'm Amrita, and this is the Amrita Effect. Real conversations about identity, resilience, and becoming for women in the middle of figuring themselves out or finding their way back to who they really are. This episode is made possible with the support from the following sponsors. Fabio Gula at Luminant Bank. If you're thinking about buying or refinancing, Fabio offers over 35 years of experience and helps match you with the right loan, not just a one-size-fits-all. And Tyler McBroom at TRM CPA. They are a proactive CPA company helping business owners maximize profits and pay as little tax as legally possible. Main Street Title. They deliver your title on time, every time. And last but not least, Lauren DiCarlo at Zingarli and DiCarlo. If you have any real estate transactions for buying or selling, reach out to them for representation. Hello, friends. I'm Amrita, and welcome to the Amrita Effect. I'm so excited to have our guest today, Risha Walden, who is the founder and principal designer of Walden Interiors, located in Melbourne, New Jersey. With years of experience, she specializes in luxury vegan interior design, creating a high-end, cruelty-free spaces. She is also a founding member of the International Vegan Interior Design Association and the host of the Designing the Business podcast. Welcome, Risha. We're excited to have you, and I can't wait to dig in.
Thanks, Amrita. Thanks so much for having me here. It's always great to talk to fellow women business owners and, talk about our struggles and our triumphs.
Yes, we cannot do it alone. That's for sure. We need the tribe along with us. So before we get into our questions and dig into who you are, we would love a synopsis of, where you kind of started and how you got to where you are. Give us a quick, synopsis of that.
Well, I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time, and I was going to school for interior design. And then when I separated from my first husband, I knew I wanted to work and have like a business. So I started and I had a great opportunity for a project, and so I started my interior design business. And that was over 15, 16 years ago. Through that process, I became a vegan. And about 10 years ago, I switched from just traditional interior design services to vegan design services. And what that really means is I'm specifying products that don't use any animal product. Interior design actually is quite rife with animal products. Some that you would know off, like think of right away, like leather. But there's lots of them that are just kind of hidden and not really thought of. And it's amazing how reliant we are on animals to create the interiors, but actually in our life for food, for products, I don't know, for everything. It's crazy how much we rely on these wonderful sentient beings and think of them as commodities. So I'm changing the world, and I'm doing that one room at a time through interior design.
So fascinating. Okay, so were you a carnivore at one point and go to a vegetarian and then vegan? Like, what was the process like for you?
I was a carnivore. I like to eat anything and everything, really. I've done a lot of traveling, so I love to try different foods. I've lived in different countries, so part of understanding culture is really understanding their food and sharing food. So that I always prided myself on being able to eat, not being very particular about it. However, at some point, I just realized it actually started off as a dietary thought. Oh, okay, I'm gaining weight. I'm having a hard time. Let me try this vegan thing. Like, what is this vegan thing? Let me try this vegan thing. And I just went cold turkey with my second husband at that time. And we both decided to try together. And literally within about a week or two, we became vegan, not for the dietary, which are plentiful. There are plenty of dietary reasons to become a vegan. In fact, we all should be vegan, but um, then I realized that I'm doing it. I'm vegan as a for it's a moral issue to me. And I had to align my personal choices with my business principles, because here I decided, oh, now I decided I'm not going to eat animals and and be party to this terrible abuse. Um, yet I was selling them over here, and I'm like, okay, that just does not work. I can't live like that. So I immediately, said, okay, going forward, I'm going to make different choices. And that's really all it is. It's just making different choices, and making choices that are rooted in a in a compassionate choice, um, and being curious, because we are I'm going to say indoctrinated, and I know a lot of people don't like that word, but we kind of are indoctrinated with how, our families live and what they teach us, and, our society. And we have these beliefs that are all just indoctrinations. And then at some point, I think as an adult, it's your responsibility to look at them and say, how do you align with these choices, and making change.
Very interesting. So, what were you doing before the interior design? Is that when you were a stay-at-home mom, or was there another career?
Well, I was a stay-at-home mom at that point. I was going to school, New York School of Interior Design, for interior design, but I was just at home with my kids. It was great. Like, I was so lucky to have that opportunity to be at home with them. And then interior design, my business allowed me to um, decide my schedule and still be very available to them. Uh, but it was about 10 years, I realized I wasn't actually building a business. I was just creating a project. I was just creating work for myself, because well, I'm a business to me is something that can run by itself without, you know, a particular person, one person. And if I left the business, that means that the business wouldn't run. There was no business. So that is just work. Now, I was doing great work and I loved the work, but I really wanted to have a business. So I'm a creative person, and I had to change my whole mindset. Again, it's like all the beliefs that I had to get rid of them and start again and say, okay, how do I have a business? And move from being a creative person to a business person, two different sides of the brain. Uh, really, and then like get training and getting schooled and learning and getting new information. That first couple of years, when I decided I wanted to have a business, I had to rethink about what it was exactly. What was a business? And I want to grow a business that eventually, that's my legacy. I was brought into this world here to bring beauty, and I can do that through interior design. Um, I think that living in beautiful places, environments, is so important to our mental and spiritual, physical well-being. Um, and I know I can do that through interior design and bring beauty that way. So that's my business. So I had to change my whole thinking. It was just sort of like becoming vegan. I had to change my thinking. When I became vegan, I had to change my thinking again. Oh my God, I'm so exhausted. So exhausted.
Right. And it just I want to dig into, like, you went from being a stay-at-home mom to, and you were going to school, and then you decided now you're going to go out into this real world and start something from scratch. So there's a shift happening there. And then tell me about the timing of the separation. Was that at the same time, before or after? Because that
No, it
plays
was
a
at
big
the same
role.
time.
Same time.
I was going to school, I got separated, and I had a great opportunity for a big project for interior design. I'd been going to school for a while, so I felt very confident taking on the project. But there was just, and I was still stay-at-home mom, um, and I just started my business, and something had to give, so I stopped my schooling, um, and I said, okay, I'm going to work on my business. I work on the separation, and then of course my kids. So there was, my bandwidth. I only had so much bandwidth in that,
Yeah.
you know.
So the women listening here are going through some sort of shift, are navigating something. We're always navigating some sort of change, right? So that's what you're describing, are three major parts of your life that were shifting at the same time, which is not a clean transition. It's not an easy one by any means. But when you were making this pivot, what did it feel like, and what things did you tell yourself, or what coaching did you get, or how did you get through it? Because that's a lot of change at the same time.
It's funny because I do like change. I do like change. I am not one to go along with the crowd. I like to think outside the box. I mean, that's part of being creative. I'd grown up in a very creative family. I'm a musician, a singer, a dancer, an actress that I had done in my prior to being married. I did all those, and it was always, when you're creative, you have to think outside the box, right? You want to break the rules. That's what being creative is. So when I was getting separated, again, it was getting rid of all these ideas I had that I thought about, getting married and being together and what that looked like and the relationship. And then I had to get rid of that and fill it with new ideas. Um, so it's always these transitions. And I don't think you can have growth without these major, I don't want to say traumatic, but these major changes where you're getting rid of old ideas. You're getting rid of the stuff that no longer serves you. It's not keeping you moving forward into the direction of who you really are and what your possibilities, opportunities, and what you can really be. I despite the fact I continually put myself in these positions where I'm like, no, this is not where I want to be. I really think that I gravitate towards change because I just don't like the status quo. I'm always challenging the status quo.
Okay. And did you find that when you were going through these transitions that you were kind of automatically naturally courageous, or did you find that you had to find the courage to start, like, for example, starting in a brand new industry, coming out and starting something from scratch, or leaving your partner? Like, did you feel like you needed to find that courage, or was it there for you?
I think my kids play a great role in that because
Tell me more about that.
I want, first of all, they taught me how to really advocate. If I'm going to advocate for anything, it's going to be my kids. When you have kids, and I know you have kids, Amrita, um, they're not advocating for themselves at school, after school, in the world. You have to advocate. You have to be there, have their back. You have to stand up for them. And
Sure.
it's really easy to do with kids. It's really easy to do for your own kids.
Right.
It's easy to do for kids in general because they don't know. They don't have those tools, those resources that um, the strength to do that. And so
Right.
you automatically do that. And it was in that process of doing it for my kids that I realized that if I want to stand up for my kids, I have to stand up for myself to show my kids that it's okay, that they too can do it. Like it was teaching them the tool through actually showing them
Right.
that you can, like in terms of my marriage, that I'm not going to say I made a mistake, but I made a choice, and it didn't have to be a lifetime sentence. That was just a choice that over time changed and no longer worked. Um, and making that change, I mean, it was hard, but
Sure.
it was harder to stay in that. It would have been so much harder. So which hard do I want? We know life is hard. Which
Yeah.
hard do I want?
Choose your hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I mean, that in itself is a topic I feel like and deserves another episode. Like, marriages that are not healthy or safe, and, women continuing to stay in them out of fear or, the taboo of, the culture you come from, maybe, whatever. There's so many components to it. Now, did your kids, I assume, were supportive and were okay with you getting separated, starting the business, or did you have to coach them through it too while you were making your own transition through it?
Absolutely. I mean, they went through it. They had a very tough time. It was a lot of changes. Um, Changes are hard for anybody. People don't like to change. It's, when you're comfortable, like who wants to change that? But comfort can also be kind of a death sentence because you don't then move. It becomes very static. And life is about movement. It's change. I mean, we know the only thing we can rely on is that everything changes, right? We know that is the only thing that stays the same is that everything changes. Um, so yeah, I mean, they were great. I mean, they're great. My kids are fantastic, and they're always supportive of me. They have a hard time. They had a hard time, but ultimately, they just wanted me to be happy, and if I'm happy, they can. They're happy, and just like when they're happy, I'm happy. So yeah, no, my kids are great, but yeah, it was tough. It's tough on everybody. There was this book that I had. Oh, you go to college, you marry, you have kids, you have this dream, blah blah blah, and it's all like I think there's this book that's written, at least for my generation, um, and then I had to throw that book away because it was no longer true, and I had to write my own book. I had to fill it with new ideas. I had to say, okay, so what is this? Because when I was getting divorced, it really wasn't a big thing. Like I was one of the few people getting divorced in all the people that I knew that there weren't that many people getting divorced. I mean, I think now divorce is like, I think divorce is like over 50%. But it really, some people said, well, I'm not going to hang around. We don't hang around with divorced people because it's contagious.
Oh my
I,
gosh.
like, okay,
Oh my gosh.
great. Don't. Like, I don't want to hang around with people who, think that, my behavior is unacceptable. Like, I'm not going to do something to keep you happy.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any
Wow.
sense to me.
Yeah, that's a bizarre way of thinking. Okay. But like, that just goes to show how much you had to go through. And, the generation you come from, like that we're from, both of us, like and having to almost stand up for yourself in a way that you feel like you're protecting what you need and protecting your kids and your family and what what's next for you. Like that, I think requires so much courage. Um, which is hard to navigate when you're in it. You can always, hindsight's always 2020. You look back, you're like, yeah, I did the right thing, or I could have done this better. But when you're in it and it's complicated, it's hard to see clearly.
Yeah, it is. But I think when you're in any situation where you start to lose hope that it could be any different, and that your dream is here, and then you're here, and you're like, wait, why am I so far away from the direction of where I envision myself? Like, what is it that is holding me back? You have to take some responsibility for that, or you lose hope because nobody's coming to save you. Nobody is going to, I mean, it would be nice, but I'm an adult. I don't, my dad isn't going to show up and, like, I'm not another man isn't going to save me. Um, it has to come from me. And so that's really what it is. I had to actually rethink what selfishness was,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of it is, especially as a woman, we're told like, oh, don't be selfish, you got to look out for everybody. Well, I think the most selfless act that you can do is actually looking out for yourself and putting yourself first. That is selfless.
Yep. And our wiring it has been such that that's not a part of the equation. We're here to serve everybody else around us. So, and there's a fine line between being selfish for good and you know helping yourself be in a better position to be able to serve others versus going to the side of the ego where the ego is running the show. And that in my mind there's a distinct difference between the two. But like, I think this just goes to also drive home the point that us as women need to showcase, especially if we have kids around us, whether they're our own or nieces and nephews. Like, we could preach to them all day long on be proud of yourself or stand up for yourself or all those things. But if we're not doing it, the preaching is not going to work. So that's such an important point.
That's all we can give to our kids are the tools to do something, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we're not utilizing them, then they're like, well, that's not useful to them. Um, because the end of the day, you can't do it for your kids. They have to go through. They're going to go through whatever they go through, which is the hardest thing I think as a mom, to watch them go through things and be there and supportive, but not tell them what to do, because you have much more experience, and you're like, oh yeah, don't do it that way. But like, they're not going to know until they do it, and hopefully you've given them tools to allow them to move forward, that they can find ways that whatever um, is the best path for them to pursue, to get beyond their problems, their issues, and to find a place where they're looking after themselves, and that serves them.
Yeah, for sure. So with this business that you're running now, it's very interesting because you think of high end beauty, but you don't think of compassion and cruelty free, and that these two worlds can coexist, especially because everything we know from products that we put on our skin to the detergents we use to everything really that we consume has some sort of trace of animal products, right, or chemicals. So but here from the animal standpoint, how does creating a cruelty free home impact your internal peace? Talk to us a little bit about that.
If we want to have a peaceful sanctuary that allows us to come and restore ourselves and be restorative and be the kind of place that um, gives us the energy to live in a wonderful world that we're lucky enough to inhabit, we can't be putting products that are acquired through trauma and violence and abuse into our homes, because everything is energy. So we want to, the way I look at it is, I don't want to have that energetic vibrations in my home, because that is going to impact how I feel as well. And so I look to find alternatives that don't use animal products. It's very tough. It's tough to live a vegan lifestyle, because to have the transparency all the way through the chain of um, the life of like how the life of the product, how it's built, is hard to know 100%. I just know that I am making different choices. I'm I'm looking at, okay, and I'm asking questions about the origin of the product, and like, there are things that you can ultimately see. For instance, we know leather, well, is an element used prolific in interior design. So leather, down, wool, fur, skins, bone, shell, horn. You can't have these things unless you kill the animal. That's all there is to it. And you're like, there is no like Anybody wants to think humane killing? Like, it's just not possible. There is no humane killing. Not possible. Um, but that being said, there are all these other uh, elements that are using animal products that you don't see. Like traditional wood glue was hide glue. Now, where they boil down all the leftover pieces of the animal and they create a glue. Is it in the United States? No, they found alternatives for it, but not all the furniture we get is from the United States. It's from third world countries. Do I know actually what that glue is? It's hard to get information on that. So I just look at, I'm just making better choices. I'm asking questions. Am I 100% cruelty free? No, because I can't confirm like that the glue from maybe one of the products that we've gotten from Vietnam, for instance, isn't hide glue. It could be, it could not be. I can't get that information, but at least I'm asking questions and bringing awareness, and maybe one day we will be able to get that transparency. We're seeing that transparency in fashion, and we know that interior design follows fashion. So the use of animal products in fashion is going out of fashion, right? Like they're looking for alternatives. And eventually that's going to find its way into interior design. And that will impact the kind of products and what we're using.
Right. And I can see, when the world that we're in, when our world through transition or through growth feels chaotic, I can see how our environment or what we're consuming or what we're surrounding ourselves with could impact that space and the sanctuary that we need to create. Um, what would you say would be the first step to turning, you know, a home back into a true sanctuary if you were to transition, if you were like, if somebody is curious about, going from what they've got to creating more of a sanctuary that's more vegan lifestyle, like how would you even start down that path?
Well, I don't believe that you're going to transition and throw everything out that has an animal in it and then start it again. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. It's not sustainable. I still live in a home where I have carpets that I um, bought years ago, 30 years ago, and some leather on chairs that I had reupholstered 15 years ago. I'm not going to get rid of it, but I think the more important part is just asking the questions for every decision going forward. So with interior design, it's difficult to think of those decisions because you have so many other thoughts when you're doing interior design. So you're looking for a new sofa, for instance. Okay, it's not just about, like, interior design isn't just about furniture, but if you're going to go and say, okay, I want to try to live a more compassionate life and you need a new sofa, well, you're going to start thinking about, okay, what's the size of the sofa? What's the color of the sofa? What is the function of the sofa? What's the style of the sofa? Will I be able to get it into my house or my apartment? Because it may be too big. So maybe I got to make sure that it fits through the door, but will it also fit in the space? There's all these other design components that you need to think about that you forget. Oh yeah, and I want to make sure that they're not using any down in it, and that the material, it doesn't use any other animal product. So it's really difficult to start thinking about this, especially if you're not in interior design and you're doing it all the time, which most people aren't. Most people are not making these choices every single day. But that would be the number one step, is just start asking questions about, okay, so what is in the sofa? What is the pillows? Is there down? And then making a choice and asking for the alternatives. There are always alternatives because we have, there's allergies. So they've found fantastic alternatives for the look and feel of down, which down, you get this nice kind of pillow that fluffs up and molds to your body. They've got fantastic fill that now replicates that. Um, but you have to ask, and you have to be curious to want to make that change. And then every time you're making a choice, you're doing it from that place of curiosity to find out what am I actually buying. And I feel very empowered because that means that every single choice that I make is changing the world, because I know that my choices for how I spend my money impacts what people offer. And I believe that just a single person like myself, everybody has that ability to change the world. And you just decide where your money is going to be spent. I refuse to spend my money on products that um, use animal products in the testing, in the whatever it is. I'm just refuse to do it. So I don't put my money there, and I can do that for everything. I do it with my food, with my housewife products, with my beauty products, with my interior design products.
So being curious, asking questions is really the first simple step anyone can take to make change today.
Absolutely. And we're so lucky because you want to ask a question, you want to get some information. Like 20 years ago, you couldn't get you had to go to the library, look at an encyclopedia. I mean, maybe 20 years ago, yeah, like maybe 25 years ago, you need an encyclopedia. And what did the encyclopedia in a little brief paragraph like this? Yeah. Now, you want to get deep, easy.
Yeah. So let's go to authentic style for a moment. How does a woman uncover her authentic style after years of trying to fit into the society's expectations? Something we talked about a little earlier, right? You had this book, go to college, get married, have kids, have a house, and then that book didn't serve you. So talk to us a little bit about what insights could you share with the listeners so that if she needs to uncover, and figure out what her authentic style is, which might mean releasing some of the expectations of the society.
Yeah, and that's a great question, because in order to move forward and find your authentic style, you have to let go of what you believe to be true. And you have to listen to your own intuition, and you build that up. You stop living by other people's ideas and thoughts and things, and know that what you know is actually true, and what you feel is true. And if you love pink, like, then you should embrace it. How do you find your style? Well, that's tough because there's so many styles, and there's a lot of things that if you are not in the world of interior design, you're going to be seeing, usually what's available is very limited. We look at what the major retailers are for furniture and stuff, and they have a certain look, etc. But there is so much more, um, that doing it yourself is tough because you just don't know what the options are. Most of my clients, they come to me. I pride myself on understanding my clients' aesthetic very quickly, and then expanding that, because I know the possibilities. If you don't know the possibilities, it's hard to think like what is available. So part is, again, curiosity, like what is available, what is outside of Restoration Hardware, Crate and Barrel, West Elm. Not that those places are bad, but do you want to be looking like a West Elm showroom? Do you want to be looking like your neighbor who also loves West Elm? Probably not. You are unique and complex and have multi layers to yourself. And that's, you know, any good interior designer should be able to figure that out and then layer all those elements in, because it's not just about, oh, well, I like pink. Well, there's so many shades of pink. Do you like fuchsia? Do you like rose? Do you like dusty rose? But then it's also like, what are you using the space for? What do you need to, how do you want to function in this space? What is it? There's lots of components. And so any good designer should be able to pull together all those elements and create something that is beyond what you would envision. But I've I've had clients say, "Oh my goodness, like this was not what I thought when I hired you, but it's so me." And I'm like, "Yeah, because when I look at you, this is what I thought. Like this is what I see." And I mean, they're just thrilled because it went beyond, uh, and it really um, helped them come to know themselves. It is, I have to say, it is tougher when you're doing it yourself and you aren't familiar with the possibilities. And that's just the same as like anything. Like if you're doing your taxes and you don't know the possibilities for things to write off, how do you how do you do that? Right? Which is why, you hire a professional. And that's what an interior designer is. They're a professional. They're in this day in, day out, looking at new stuff, new introductions all the time, new products, new ideas. How do everything comes together? It's beyond the realm of what most uh, like most retail customers are ever going to see. They're not. They're never going to have that ability.
Right. Agreed. Wow. So tell us what's on the horizon now that you're, a luxury design company continuing to grow. What's the next layer of identity that's taking shape for you right now?
I really want to bring more beauty into this world. Modernism really stripped down all the beautiful details and um, embellishments that that is part of beauty. When we go into the forest or jungle, it's not a single layer. It has layers of color and shapes and form and size and proportion, and it's um, getting out of this whitewashing of interiors that become like antiseptic. So for me, I want to continue to grow. I'm bringing on more designers, working with builders who also want to do that work, and working with clients that um, are wanting to embrace the beauty, bring it inside their home. We create these boxes for to live because we protect ourselves, and we're creating these boxes, and they can be a cardboard box or they could be a Tiffany box. Well, I'd rather live in a Tiffany box.
Right.
So, so it's really just growing the business, and I love beauty. It makes me cry.
I love that. And what would you give as advice? What's your best piece of advice for a woman who's finally ready to design a life that truly fits her, considering everything you've gone through from the separation to the business to interior design and taking it from just regular interior design to a vegan? Like you've gone through so many pivots. What's your best advice?
Get out of your own way. Forget about the fear. Try overcome your fear because it's also scary staying where you're at. That's scary. That's scarier to me.
Hmm.
Um, and you know, it's have the belief, and I don't know how you get it, the belief that you won't fail. My mentor says, the only reason you're going to fail is because you quit. So like why would you fail if you know that this is what you're good at and what you can do, or even if you're not good at it but you want to know it, you know that you will take the steps to do it. And just, it's step after step. It's the journey. I mean, these all sound so cliche, but it is the
Yeah.
journey. It's not about when, I'm growing my company. Yeah, I would love to have like $50 million company, but it's not about getting to the 50 million or the 10 million or the 100 million or whatever it is. It's about um, bringing along people with me, growing together, having this journey, because that is what the life is. So um, don't do it yourself.
Yeah.
Bring people that can share your ideas. There are so many people out there that are If you're growing your company or you want to start a company, you can't do it yourself. I thought I could, but like, well, I don't know why. Because I guess I was worried about people, not being able to do it and like not supporting me or saying they're going to do something and not. But there are more people who are there to help you and want to do great work. You
Right.
just have to find them and the only way you find them is that you know in yourself that you are going to do great work. People want to follow and work with great people. So you got
Right.
to make yourself great.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's so many things.
Yes,
It
it
wasn't
is.
just one thing,
But
but
it's such a heavy question, right? It's such a big question. Like, where do you start, and how do you find the courage? And, the work always starts from the inside, then ripples out. And the inside work is hard. It's not easy. You know, for some, it's like, sitting in the quiet in the morning and just asking yourself questions, and the answers apparently come to you, as your subconscious is unraveling. Some people journal, some people have mentors. So really you have to find which one of these things can work for you to to initiate and dig deeper into. And sometimes it's going to be one, and then it'll change to another, and then sometimes it'll be all three, whatever.
you have to take action, like, because what can happen is paralysis by analysis, where you continue to think it over. I'm going to just make it, going to have the perfect plan. It's never perfect. I'm still make fails every single day. um and I just know, okay, tomorrow's going to be better. Okay, I'm not going to do that again. Okay, I lost money. God damn. Like, I'm just not going to do, I'm going to figure out, make sure I don't do that again.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. It's every day is a moment of growth for sure. Because every success and failure is a moment of learning, and sometimes the most valuable learning comes from the failures. Like, failing is not the end. It's just part of the process,
I mean, it
right? It's just
sucks.
a step.
But no, it's in this contrast and comparison, right? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, that did not feel good. I never want to do that
Right.
again. And you're like, I'm gonna make these steps, put these processes, I'm gonna make these decisions so that I don't find myself back here
Right.
in this exact same place. Okay, you're
Right.
gonna find yourself in another place that you
Right.
won't like, but you will course correct again. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's but hey, it's life. It's
Yes.
life.
This is what it's about, right? This is what life is about, like this curiosity. And remember to be curious. We lose that as we become adults, I feel like. Kids wonder, and we lose this concept of wondering.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I went to a workshop. It was a finance workshop, and as a creative, finance workshops are like, I cried. I cried. I'm like, I don't know. But what he started out with was like this circle, and he made a little pizza pie part, and he said, "This is what you know. You know." I'm like, okay, that's about right. Then another little piece of pie slice. He says, "This is what you know. You don't know." I'm like, yeah, okay. And then he said, oh, and the rest of the pie is the stuff you don't know. You don't know. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And I think about that. Okay, I just don't know. I don't know. But I can know. I know now that I don't know that. And now I'm going to go and learn that.
Right.
Right.
It's all a game of curiosity. Love that. Well, thank you so much for gracing us with so much like wisdom, and I feel like just this exposure to, beauty, and cruelty free beauty, and beauty with compassion, which is not something we often hear or talk about. So this, I think, was really valuable. If people want to find you, where can we find you? If they want to get in touch with you, where could we follow you?
Absolutely. You can catch my website, walden-interiors.com, Instagram, Walden Interiors, Facebook, Walden Interiors, LinkedIn, YouTube. I'm everywhere. You can call me directly on my phone. I pick up 90% of the calls. So right now, that's what I'm doing. I love chatting to people and finding out what their visions are for their life, their home, and how I can help bring beauty into their life.
Love that. And you're located in Melbourne. Do you have a storefront?
I'm in Millburn, New Jersey, but I've worked all over the country. And it just is whether or not clients, we click and they want to hire me.
Amazing. Love that. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your time with us, Risha. It was so lovely.
It was lovely. Thank you for being so interested and chatting about these things I think about all the time. They're
Yeah,
always coming up.
for sure, for sure. And I think the one takeaway for the audience here today is, lean into the curiosity and just ask questions. Whether you're trying to change what's going on inside or your exterior and what's around you from a furniture standpoint to the food we're eating to whatever it is, it starts with the curiosity. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks,
And
Amrita.
we'll see you next time. That's a wrap on another episode of the Amrita Effect. Nothing is wrong with you. You are just in the middle of becoming. If this resonated with you, please share it and subscribe. And if you could, leave a review so this reaches more women who need it. Just take one small step forward, and I'll see you in the next episode.